Alright, we're going to start out with an easy question.
Good.
What is your full name?
Darrel V. Lyles.
But now, and the V is just an initial.
Just an initial.
Okay. Now, when were you born?
May the 18th, 1924.
And where were you born?
Over at my grandpa Thomas's house.
Okay. Did you have a nickname when you were growing up?
My nickname was Midget.
Okay. Why'd they call you that?
I guess it's because I wasn't very big.
How tall are you right now?
5'11".
Okay. What color was your hair when you were growing up?
Well, it's about like it is now.
Just a dark, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what color are your eyes?
Well, I guess they're blue.
Do you remember the house where you were born?
Yeah,
That was your grandparents.
that's right.
Okay. What was the house like where you grew up?
Well, at the time we lived in a house down on my grandpa Lyles' place, and when I was a year old, Dad bought this place here, and we moved to Trammell.
So how many rooms were in the house here on Trammell?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Did it have running water?
No.
Did it have electricity?
Well, not for a long time.
Okay.
Our light bill was $1.50 a month when we got electricity.
What were the first electrical appliances?
A radio, I guess, is one, and probably a dishwasher.
How old were you before you lived in a house with a bathroom? Was that when you built this house?
Yeah,
Well, no, you built the house in 54 or 5, and then added on in 65, I think. So 1965 was your first bathroom?
probably, yeah.
How old were you before you had a telephone in the house?
Well, down at the old house, we had a telephone, one of these walls, when lines are running around through the county, all my life.
Okay, what was your ringtone?
It is a long and 2 shorts.
It was a party line,
Yeah.
so you could listen in on the neighbors as they were talking.
Mm-hmm.
What were your parents' names?
Fred Lyles and Grace Lyles.
Okay, what did you call your father?
I called him Dad,
And you called your mother?
Mother,
Okay. How did your parents make a living?
farming.
What kind of crops or animals did they raise?
Well, we had 2 mules and 2 cows, and well, we raised tobacco and corn.
Did either one of your parents have a driver's license?
No, they never owned an automobile.
So how did they get anywhere? How did they go places?
Well, for a long time we walked. And finally Dad got a horse and a buggy.
Okay, today we have Walmart and Kmart and Food Line to go shopping at. Where did your family shop when you were growing up?
Well, we didn't do much shopping, but what little we did was in Scottsville.
Did you do any trading at the country stores?
Well, yeah, a Trammell store was open out here at that time.
So what did you take? Eggs or chickens or?
They would buy eggs and chickens.
Generally speaking, what was your childhood like? Did you have to work a lot? Did you get to play a little bit?
Well,
Did you have close friends?
Yeah, we had, of course, worked a little and had Ralph and Denver Bryant. They lived across over here. We'd, Mother'd let me go over there maybe to stay an hour, and then they'd maybe next day they'd get to come over home and play an hour.
Did you have any chores that you had to do? Weed the garden or do anything like that?
I'd work in the garden, help plant the garden, and cultivate it.
What kind of games did you play growing up?
Well, I like to pitch horseshoes and play dominoes.
Play marbles?
Yeah, marbles. They used to meet over here at the school grounds on Saturday and be playing marbles all day about it.
So were you good at it?
Pretty good.
Did you have any pets growing up?
Yeah, I had some pets. Well, I don't know what you call them pets now, but I had some squirrels and rabbits.
Okay, now you had a pet crow. Tell me a story about the pet crow, what it would do.
That pet crow, Mother, she couldn't wash and put clothes on the clothesline and pins until we put the crow up, because the crow would come out there and get them and fly off. Same way down here playing marbles, that crow would come over and hop around there on the ground. Got a chance, he got him a marble and flew off. When we was cultivating Grandpa's bottom, that crow would go with us to the bottom, stay all day. When it got about his roost time late of evening, he'd start flying and lighting on the plow handles. Other crows would fight them pet crows, just I don't know why. They'd go with us to the bottom and stay all day. I could call that crow. He'd come and light on my shoulder.
Did he have a name?
No.
Just Crow. What, did you get it when it was just a baby?
Yeah, out of the nest when it was small. Over here at the schoolhouse in the summertime, the windows pulled down. That crow would sit up there, up in that window, and sit there and squawk, just, crow talk.
Now, when it stole the marbles and it stole the clothespins, did it take them to one spot? Where did it hide?
I don't know.
Or did he hide them? You never did find them?
Couldn't find them.
Did you go visit to Nene on Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon?
We'd go somewhere every once in a while at night, and some family would come to visit us at night, and if they had any children, well, we was out in the yard playing, and they was in the house talking.
When you were a teenager, is there anything special that you remember about your teenage years?
I was going to school over at Mount Victory, and I went through the 11th grade, missed one day. It was on Friday before school was out the next Friday. Mother thought I was too sick to go and wouldn't let me go.
So you went 11 years almost without missing a day?
Over here, missed one day.
And where was the school at?
Where the fire department is.
So right across the street.
Grades 1 through 12.
At Mount Victory. Describe a typical family meal. When y'all would be out working and come in, what would Mother have cooked for you?
Well, we'd always have cornbread, beans, cabbage, horse potatoes. Of course, we raised them. And, I don't know, once in a while we'd have chicken.
What was your favorite food?
The favorite piece of chicken was my wing.
How were holidays? How was Christmas celebrated when you were growing up?
We would always go over to my Grandpa Thomas's for Christmas. Santa Claus would always be over there. We didn't get very much for Christmas because, well, Dad and Mother just didn't have the money to get much. It's good that we didn't get so much, I guess.
Did you hang up stockings?
Oh, yeah.
And what would be in it the next morning?
Well, mostly maybe it'd be some fruit, apple, orange, banana. Not very much of anything back then.
Were birthdays special times, or was that just another day?
Well, yeah, Mother'd always, most of the time, would fix me a cake or something for my birthday.
Who was the oldest relative that you remember as a child?
Well, this is Grandpa Lyles or Grandpa Thomas. I don't know how old they were, but that's up in years.
I know when you're a child, anybody that's over 60
yeah.
seems old.
I thought when I was a boy, anybody 50 was old.
What do you remember about Grandpa Thomas?
Well, when I'd go over there, he had a lot of bees. And he'd, what do you call it? When he's getting honey out, robbing the bees.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have on nothing on his arms, and them bees were just crawling all over him. And I couldn't get out of the house over there when he was robbing them. I mean, if I got out, a bee'd be hunting me.
They didn't sting him?
No. He had 8 or 10, whatever you call them, hives of bees.
What about Grandpa Lyles? What do you remember about him?
Well, I don't know. We'd go down there and he'd go with me. Of course, we lived there close to the creek, and he'd go with me a whole lot down to the creek, fish.
How old were you when your grandparents died?
8 or 10 when Grandpa Thomas died, and 15 or 20 when Grandpa Lyles died.
Okay, we'd mentioned it earlier, but where did you go to school?
Mount Victory. I went to Mount Victory grades 1 through 11, and then they consolidated Metter High School and Mount Victory High School into Allen County High, and I graduated up there to Allen County High School.
How many were in that class?
There was 32 seniors. That's about half of them from each school. And that picture, the picture of the high school first class that graduated up there in the back room of when you go in at the, what do you call that?
The YMCA?
If you go straight on through to the hall over there and turn left, go down there, there's a picture on the wall of the first senior class.
How did you get to school?
Well, I rode the bus up there at Mount Allen County High, and over here I walked across the road.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Math.
And your least favorite?
English.
In all those years, did you have a favorite teacher?
Well, my first grade teacher, Miss Whitlow, I thought a whole lot of her. And, well, I liked all of them.
What school activities did you participate in, or what sports?
I played on the softball team and the basketball team.
So, how many years of schooling have you had then? You graduated from Allen County High.
I was out here hoeing tobacco one day in front of the schoolhouse. This house and nothing wasn't there, and we had tobacco all in here. Teacher came over across the road, asked me if I would teach the last 2 months of school. Said she was going to move to Franklin. And I said, well, you go talk to the superintendent. If it's all right with him, I'll teach the last 2 months. So she went and talked to him, and he said if I'd go down to Western, sign up for 2 courses for correspondence, well, I could teach. So that's the way I got started. The next, I'd go down there on Saturday classes, and I don't know, classes in the summertime or something. And took some night classes. So that way I kept teaching school for.
So you did graduate.
Finally got my degree.
And what kind of degree was that?
BS.
And that was from what?
Western.
Western. Do you remember how much you made those 2 months of teaching school? How much did they pay you?
Yeah, I made a whole lot. $87 a month. But back then, that was a whole lot of money.
How many different schools are the names of the schools you have taught at? You started at Mount Victory.
I started at Mount Victory. I taught there 5 years, and then there's another teacher applied for it, had more college hours than I did, so they got it. I went to talk to the superintendent, and he said I could go to Mount Zion and teach 7th grade math, or I could go over to the one-room school, Gilead, over up behind Cedar Cross Church. But he said that school's got the roughest name any school in the county. I told him, I said, that's the one I want. So I went over there. He said the year before, 2 of the larger boys, one of them held the back door and one of the front door and wouldn't let the teacher out, and the other larger boys went down to the river and went swimming. So I got that school. I went over about a week before it started and saw they had a ball diamond. So back then, the first day of school, you didn't stay at school very long because you had to find out how many is in each class, then you would hold over a couple of hours, then you'd go to town and they had the books up there, get the books, the erasers, the chalk, the water bucket, the dipper, the broom. And I noticed the first day, I said, boys, you all like to play ball? Yeah. I said, well, you need some new base out there. Could some of you fix us some new base by tomorrow? Yeah. I said, you like to play volleyball? They said they did. I said, could some of you get your dad to set us a couple of posts this evening? Yeah. I said, well, before I leave, I'll measure and drive down a couple of stobs before you set the post. I said, when I go to get the books, everything, I'll get us a bat and a couple of softballs and a volleyball net and a volleyball. I said, now when it's playtime, we're going to play. When it's books, we're going to have school. And if I hadn't liked over there, I wouldn't have drove that far for 7 years. But about 3 weeks before the first year was up, they asked me, could we meet one day a month and when school's out and play all day? I said, well, you ask your parents, and if it's all right with them, well, we'll meet one day and bring our dinner and play all day. So they come in the next day, and it is all right with them. So we met one Saturday and played all day. Then around the next month, time for that meeting, that morning, Meemaw asked me if I wanted her to fix my lunch. I said, well, sure, I want you to fix it. I said, we'll be over all day. But she knew something that I didn't know, so she fixed it. got over there, and we had a softball game a-going, volleyball a-going, and croquet a-going, and all the little ones, they was playing. About 11 o'clock, I noticed cars pulling in down at the church. And I said, boys, what's going on down at church? They didn't know. I said, well, it wouldn't be a funeral down there, would it? They didn't know. Well, cars kept pulling in. I said, let's don't be a hollering so loud. That's a holler. About 11:30, they started leaving down at the church, coming up to the schoolhouse. And I kept asking, what's going on? They didn't know. Well, nobody got out till they all got parked. Then the men all got out and went in the schoolhouse and started packing the seats out, taking them over on the other side from where we was at. Ball Diamond is shady over there. Well, when they got the seats out, then the women all started getting out, and they had a basket. Well, they went around. About 15, 20 minutes, Mr. Arthur Hogue came around the corner of the house and hollered at me to come up there. Well, the ball games all stopped. When I went around the corner, they started singing Happy Birthday to me. Well, that brought a few tears to my eyes, thinking that they thought enough of me to fix me a dinner. That's the way it was. I would have stayed over there 7 years, but it was that way. I know they told me the first day when revival starts, we want the school to come. It's just about as far from here to Old Trammell Store. So I came by one evening and stopped at the superintendent's office and told him, I said, now when revival starts, they want us the school to come. I said, we're going, and I'll write on the board where we're at in case some of you come over here and we're not here. So, first day was to go, we got out there and lined up, and I told them how to behave going down the road. They had 2 lines. That couldn't have went down the road any quieter than they just went just like I wanted them to. And when service was over, we lined up, came back. They wasn't talking loud or nothing, or running or jumping. I figured though that when we'd get about 100 yards of the schoolhouse, they'd start running. But they didn't. They stayed right in line until we got right up there. I don't know, is that a way ever? Well, we went to revival 7 years. And I had seen students get saved during the day service. First year, I figured the first graders would want to sit with their mother when we, at church. They didn't. They all wanted to sit with me, and sometimes I'd end up holding one and be asleep. But I don't know. I just couldn't. I just liked it over there.
How many students were there that first year?
Well, I'd have about 35.
And that's grades 1 through?
8.
Okay.
I know the first day of the first year, there's a little boy came with his mother, Ms. Hogue and Cornelia Hogue, had a little brother Franklin, he is 5. She asked me if I cared, they lived there in sight of the schoolhouse. She said, would you mind if Franklin was to come 2 or 3 days to see how he did at school? Well, I thought, he'll like playtime, but he won't like sitting in here. Books. That little booger, he was ready to start at 5. He came to class with 1st grade every day. He never missed a day. I couldn't enroll him, but I did the 2nd year, enrolled him in the 2nd grade. But we'd have a Christmas program, and that house would be full. I don't know, them kids they're just great. And one, you got your name after her, Linda Carol Foster. She was an A student, and when we come around to naming you, we're picking out a name. I said, Meemaw, I've got the name for Linda. Linda Carroll, she was an A student.
So after you taught at Gilead,
then we went to Allen County Middle School. Taught up there 12 years. And then they moved the high school out. And we went over to the middle school, taught over there 10 years, and 10 years at Allen County Elementary.
so you taught a total of how many years?
34.
Ever paddle anybody?
Oh. For the first 12 years, I didn't paddle them. I used a limb. I had a limb in the corner. I didn't have to use it very often, but I'd use it once in a while. Over there at Gilead, we burnt coal, and they brought the coal on Saturday, you know, when there wasn't no school. They would unload it around behind the schoolhouse. Well, on Monday, I was in the house. It wasn't time for books. There's one student came in, don't remember who, and said they're throwing little lumps of coal out back. Well, I went out there, and there's 4 boys. I said, boys, now you got to stop throwing this. I said, that's dangerous. You're liable to hit somebody in the eye. So they quit. Well, I went back in the house. It wasn't long. One of them has been throwing, came in the back door, swallowing. Somebody hit him up over the eye, and it was bleeding. Well, I fixed that, put some tape over it. I got my limb, and I went out there, and I said, boys, I told you what you'd get if you didn't quit throwing. I said, who wants to be first? Well, Rex, when he got hit, he come up there, and I don't know how many licks I gave him. Franklin Hogue, he got the same number of licks. John and James Jamerson, they live there right across from Cedar Cross Church. I gave them all a good one, and at the morning recess, I needed to go down the toilet, and I went down there. Them 4 boys was down there with the pants down and checking stripes, and I put stripes on them. And I didn't get no static from home, or if they told me to use a limb if I needed to, and if they got home and they found it out, they'd get another. So.
Okay, let's switch over now and talk about church. Where did you go to church when you were growing up?
Well, we didn't go to church very often, but when I was growing up, we went to Beach Grove. And there's a path in the roadway. We'd go down through where Ralph lives, and we'd go through. We'd go to, most of the time, it was just to revivals.
Did your parents go with you?
Yeah, we'd go. I'd be sitting on Dad's shoulders. He'd pack me for a long time.
I've heard you tell the story about going to church on the horse.
Yeah.
What happened to
Well,
it?
I went. I joined Harmony, and I'd walked to Harmony for a long time. Some Hinton owned that farm at that time, and there was a road through there and gates. But that's the way I'd walk and go through, and it'd come out over there, close to where Miss Lyles Lambert lived. But I walked for a long time, and then finally we got a horse. And I rode that horse for a while. First Sunday I rode that horse to church. I just got off and tied the reins around a tree there. On this side of the church there's woods all thin. Well, when church is over and I came out, my horse wasn't out there. Bridle was, but the horse had rubbed the bridle off. And of course, I didn't know where it was at. But when I got back home, I packed the bridle. The horse was down there in the barn loft. So the next month, when I rode my horse, I had a throat latch. Before I got off of the horse, I tied the reins up to a limb up over the horse's head. Then I got off, and from then on, I'd come out and the horse was out there.
So you joined Harmony Baptist Church?
Yeah, 1944.
Would you tell us your testimony?
Well, I got saved over at Beach Grove. The meeting went on over there for 2 weeks. And I was on the mower's bench every night. The mower's bench was full every night. Well, it went on for 2 weeks and broke it. Brother Horn, the pastor, he waited 3 months and he wanted to have another revival. So we asked Brother Darrel Pruitt to help. Well, I went to the mower's bench Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. Wednesday night, I decided on the way over there I'm not going to sit up there on that bench tonight. I've been a-going, and it just won't do no good, and I'm not a-going. Well, Brother Pruitt, he preached that night. It just seemed like he was preaching to me. But when he got through and they gave the invitation, I didn't get up and go like I've been doing. Well, Brother Lyles Lambert, he got up, he was a member over there. He got up, started back, and I thought, yeah, you're coming to talk to me, but I'm not going. Well, he come back and put his arms around me. Well, he wanted me to go up for prayer, and I finally thought to myself, well, I reckon I'll go. It won't do no good, but I'll go. So I went up there, got on the mower's bench. Well, I don't know how long it was. There's 2 boys, all that long revival, I sat between them. And I was between them up there that night. One of them got saved. In a little while, the one on the other side of me got saved. I remember saying, Lord, what about me? I want to be saved. That's when I got in trouble. That long revival, I just went up there and was sitting up there on the bench waiting for the Lord to save me. So I got under conviction. Mr. Felton Landers, the song leader, he came around and patted me on the shoulder. And he started an old song, I'll Be Satisfied. I listened to the first verse of that song, and I didn't hear the other 2 verses. I got up and got down on my knees and started trying to pray. And I don't know how long it was, but the Lord saved my soul. And I didn't get up right then. I just stayed there and thanking Him for saving me. Well, then I thought back. I was 12 years old down here at the house, and I'd been out playing. I come in, and my mother caught me to get me a drink. My mother caught me off guard and asked me if I was lost. I said, yes, Mother, I'm lost. I said, now I'm going to ask you a question. How do you know when you're saved? She said, you'll know when you're saved. You'll be the first one to know. So that night, after the Lord saved me, when I decided to get up, I thought, when I got up, there was Mother on her knees there by me. I thought to myself, Mother, you was right. You said I'd be the first one to know. And I know, but you don't know, but you're fixing to know. Oh.
So how old were you?
18.
How long have you been a deacon at Harmony?
I was a deacon 48 years.
And how long did you take care of the church, cleaning it?
48 years, I think. Yeah, I know it was.
And you used
I
to
always thought
lead singing.
the sexton should be the first one there and the last one to leave.
Okay, and you led singing.
Yeah. Edward and me, we took it Sunday about. Of course, I couldn't sing, and still can't. But he'd sing loud. We'd take it Sunday about. And he'd sit up there front, and of course he'd sing loud, and that helped me.
Now, didn't Grandpa Lyles, Mr. Orville, didn't he lead
Yeah,
the singing?
He was a song leader when I joined the church, and Edward's dad was song leader. They took it night about.
How old were you when you got your driver's license?
How old do you have to be?
Well, nowadays you have to be 16, but I don't know.
Well, I was around 20, I guess. I didn't have a car for.
Whose car did you use to take your test in?
Well, I used mine. Harold Shores. He lived over here in the house where Bud and Marie used to live in.
Mm-hmm.
The one that they moved over. He lived there and he sold cars. And he had a Model A Ford car. I went over there and looked at it. He had it priced at $40. So I bought that thing. And it run just like a brand new one. And some of the people around here that didn't have a car would hire me to take them to town and to buy something. I'd drive that car, and of course then, Dad and Mother they could go to church after I bought the car. But Harold, he came over here in about a month, and he wanted to buy it back. He said, well, I gave him $40 for it. He said, I'll give you $50 for it back. And I said, that car is not for sale. Oh, yeah, well, he could offer me anything. I wouldn't have took it.
Okay, you bought a Jeep. After that?
Yeah, I bought a Willis Jeep. It was $950, I think. I had the governors put on it, power lift, and 3-point hitch. And I bought it up here at Scottsville with Claypool and Weaver. They had a garage up there and they sold Jeeps and then done mechanical work. And I bought that Jeep and they used it to turn my grandpa's bottom down there, 3 years with it. Had a 16-inch flat bottom plow and had a regular sized disc, and you could pull that lift in there and that disc would come up and you could take off down the road. But I'd turn the ground, and then when we got ready to, Estelle Davis would always get him to plant it. And I'd disc it down, all of it, and get it ready for plant.
Tell me about the tractor that you bought.
Well, I decided I wanted a tractor, and I went up there. I like $900 to have it. Let's see, $2,730.40. That was for the tractor, turning plow, cultivators, and disc. And I like $900 to have enough to pay for that tractor and all the equipment. So I went up to the bank, talked to Mr. Carleen Gillen at the Farmers National Bank, told him what I was wanting to buy, and I wanted to know if I could borrow $900. He said, you can get the money if you have somebody come and go on your note. So I come back home and got Dad and took him to town, signed the note, and I got the tractor.
So where's that tractor now?
That tractor is over here in the barn.
If the battery was charged, would it crank?
The last time I owned it, as far as I know, if the battery was charged, it'd run.
So what model is it?
49.
49.
VAC case.
Okay.
I plowed all day and all night to get the bottom ready for Estelle to plant. And I was down there a-disking, and I was catching myself going to sleep. And Dad never had drove it. He didn't want to drive it. And I told him, I said, Dad, I've got to go home and sleep some. And you get on this tractor just like the little, having it all broke. And I said, I'll go home and sleep about a couple of hours and have Mother to wake me up, and I'll come back down here. And I put the tractor in second gear and shoved the gas down all the way, and I said, you just ease out on that clutch and keep it in the field. Well, I come home. Told Mother to wake me up in a couple of hours. Well, she did. I went back down there. I got up on the bluff there and I couldn't hear the tractor running. I went down to the bottom, looked, couldn't see the tractor nowhere. Well, I was just standing there, and a little bit, Dad came out from over at the creek. Well, I thought he just run that. I didn't tell him how to use the brake, the turner. So I figured that tractor was over in the bottom uppers in the creek. I went over there, and it wasn't in the creek, but it had got off down in there and got in a treetop, and he didn't know. I reckon it just choked down. We had to move stuff, and finally got the tractor loose from the disc and got around and hooked to the back of the disc and pulled it out backwards. And I had the steel roller behind the disc, really smoothing it out. But I got on the tractor and finished it up.
Okay, you've been a teacher. What other jobs have you had? Because you just taught 9 months out of the year, so what did you do during the summer?
I worked up at that time as ASC office. Measured tobacco. I made back then a whole lot of money on measuring tobacco. I know Timmy went with me one year, carried the front end of the tape if farmer didn't want to. And there's a feller up around Harlem, and they said he'll cheat you and beat you. Well, Timmy, that guy, he wanted to carry the end of the chain. So when he straightened her out there, instead of sticking, we had some little pins about so long, he'd stick down, then I'd pick them up as I come through. Instead of sticking that pin down at the end of the chain, he reached about 4 feet, stuck it down. Well, I added on about 4 or 5 links. Next time he done that, Timmy hollered back and said, "Daddy, he's not doing it right." I said, "It'll be okay." I just added on, and sure enough, he had too much.
So back then, they couldn't raise all they wanted to. They could just raise a half acre or an acre.
Just raise so much.
And if they had more than that, what did they do?
They had to tear it up. If they had too much, had more than their base, well, they had to destroy it. And I know one time, Mr. Stone, he sent me out to a farm. Said, I told me the day before, he said, "Tomorrow I want you to go out." He told me the name of the farm, I don't remember. He had too much tobacco and already had it cut and in the barn. Well, I got out there, and his wife said he'd gone up the road to somewhere. Said he'd be back in a little bit. So he came back. We sat there on the porch and talked a little bit. And he said, I guess you came over to destroy some tobacco. And I said, yeah. But he already had it cut in the barn. I said, let's go out to the patch and we'll measure off a couple of rows to find out. And then we'll count the plants and figure out how many you put to the stick. And then that's how many sticks we'll have to destroy. He said, well, I have to destroy my best tobacco. And I said, no, sir, it's all measured against you. So he got the wagon up there in the barn, and after we counted the stobs for the rows, and we put 5 plants to the stick, so I figured up how many sticks he'd have to get. So he brought it out there and took it off, scattered it around, and got his tractor and disced it all to pieces, and he said, you can let me know when I've got it disced enough. And I said, you've got it all right. So I got back up there. Mr. Stone said, did you destroy that tobacco? And I said, yeah. Have any trouble? I said, no. Well, he said, I've got another farm I want you to go to in the morning. Well, he said he's a pastor in his soil bank land. Well, I went up there and got his papers and went down to the house the next morning. There wasn't nobody there, but I could hear a tractor down in the bottom down there running. I didn't know whether it was him or who. So I just got back then we had to use a photograph to, it was plotted on there where his soil bank land was. Walked down a little path down through there, and I got down there at the edge of the field. There was a pair of pants and a shirt and a hat and the shoes. All of his clothes was hanging on the fence there. I walked out in the field, and they said he's a pasture in his soil bank land. I went out in, you couldn't walk without stepping in a cow pile. And he was out there mowing, going to mow all of it off. Well, when I walked out in there, I seen him up there. He turned and the tractor towards me, and he kept it aimed right at me. And I thought, and then I'd move a little, and he'd cut it a little. And I thought, what are you going to do, run over me? Well, he didn't have on a rag of clothes. That's the reason he was keeping the tractor aimed at me. Well, I told him my business. He said, I thought I'd get me a suntan, and that's the reason I took my clothes off. And he said the fence got tore down and the cows started coming in here. Well, the electric fence, I stepped over it up there. It was laying on the ground, and them cows, he drove them out, but they went up there and they stepped over that hot wire. They'd been stepping over it for no telling how long. And I went back in town. Mr. Stone asked me what happened, and I told him, and he got tickled, and he got down on the floor, just a rolling. Going down there, and that fellow didn't have on no clothes. Mm-hmm.
If you could have had any other job other than teaching or whatever, did you ever dream about doing something different?
No.
Well, I woke up this morning feeling fine. Woke up with heaven on my mind. Woke up with joy in my soul, for I knew that the Lord had control.
How did you meet the person that you later married?
Well, that is when I had that new Jeep. And there was a theater in Scottsville. Go up there and see movies. One Saturday I decided, well, I'm going to the goat show tonight. So I pulled up there, parked up above where York and Massey was, place of business was. And I was just a-sitting there. Well, I looked and I seen June. She was coming. She worked up there at, oh shoot, I can't think of the store, on Saturday. She'd ride in town with her dad and work all day. He worked down at York and Massey's on radios and TVs. Well, when she saw the Jeep over there, well, she came over. We talked a while, and it just hit me to ask her if she wanted to go to the movie with me that night. Well, I asked her. She said, yeah. She said, I'll have to go down and tell Dad that I won't be riding out with him. So I went with her down there and went back there. She told him that she's going to leave the movies. I wouldn't be riding home with him. So then we went back up to the Jeep. I said, let's go out to White Plains and eat supper, and then we'll go to the movie. So we went out to White Plains, eat supper, came back, went to the movies.
The Roy Rogers Show, starring Roy Rogers, King of the Cowboys, Trigger, his Golden Palomino, and Dale Evans, Queen of the West, with Pat Brady, his comical sidekick, and Roy's wonder dog, Bullet.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Well, when we got back to her house that night, shoot, I asked, that was on Saturday night, and I asked her for a date on Sunday night. And we was together every Saturday night, Sunday night, and Wednesday night for 4 months. And I asked her one night to marry me, and she said she would. Well, I said, who would you like to marry us? And she didn't have anybody in mind. I said, what about Brother Pruitt? He was hoping revival when I got saved. She said, that'd be all right. So I went down to their house, I don't know, a day or two after that, one evening, and told her dad and mother we wanted to tell them something. And he told the twins, he said, you all go out to the barn and do something. So we told them I'd asked her to marry me, and she said she would. We was counting on getting married. It was all right with them. So we went over and talked to Brother Pruitt. I believe that was a Wednesday night, and he told us to be over there at 4 o'clock on Thursday. So as we come in town, Valley View Motor Court, did you ever know where that was?
I've heard of it.
Well,
Out on the Old Gallatin Road?
yeah, it's right there. There's a parts house there.
Mm-hmm.
Just before you get to that bridge out there, there's a parts house there. That's where the Valley View Motor Court was. We came by there, and they rented us a room for the night. I paid them, and they gave me a key to our room, and told them that we was going to get married. So we went out to Brother Pruitt's 4 o'clock. His wife and his son-in-law was the witnesses. And they he done the job, and that's where we spent the night.
Okay. Fourth day. What day was it?
I don't remember. It was fourth day. It was the fourth month, the fourth day at 4 o'clock. April, I guess. I don't know what the. I guess it was on a Saturday.
And that was 1953?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. How would you describe Mima?
Mima is. You couldn't beat her. Let's just put it that way.
Y'all make a good team.
Huh?
I said you make a good team.
Well, I couldn't have found anybody better.
Okay. Is there a secret to having a good long marriage? If somebody was wanting to get married and they'd say, now what do I have to do to be happily married? What would you tell them?
Well, I don't know. Just be honest with one another, I guess.
Okay, now how many children do you have?
2.
And how old were you when your first child was born?
Let's see. Mima was 18, 26, I think.
Okay, now what are the names of your children?
Linda Carroll Lyles and Timmy Neal Lyles.
Okay, now you told us earlier how Linda Carroll got her name. How did Timmy Neal get his?
Well, I had an uncle, Neil McElroy, so I reckon that's where the Neil come from. And I don't know about the Timmy.
I was thinking it was because of Lassie. The TV show? On the TV show Lassie, it was Timmy and Lassie.
Well, it might
Is that
be.
where Timmy come from? Well,
I don't know.
when did your family first get a television?
Really, I can't remember the year, but I know when Dad and Mother got one, people around here would meet in down there every Saturday night and watch it till it went off.
Do you remember any of the shows that were on then?
Uncle Dave Macon.
My buddy started out the other day, studying a plan how to get away. Light come on and the quarters in the dark, waiting for the Chesterfield train to start. Conductor was standing right now, the rope in the hollered to his passengers all aboard. Then he reached up and pulled the string. Bang a bang a bang a went the passenger train. Taking me back, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back to that old Carolina home. Oh yeah, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back to that old Carolina home. Well, the train pulled on to the very next stop. I looked around about 17 cops. Across the hill, you ought to seen me run. Bang a bang a bang a with my Gatling gun. Taking me back, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back to my old Carolina home. Oh yeah, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back, taking me back to my old Carolina home.
Did you watch it when Apollo 11 landed on the moon? Do you remember seeing that?
I think so.
Did you think it was real, or did you think they were just pretending to land on the moon?
Really, I had a question in my mind.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Columbia, Columbia, this is Houston, AOS, over.
Houston, Columbia, now gate over.
Roger, the EVA is progressing beautifully. They're setting up the flag now. I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene.
That's all right, I don't mind a bit.
They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar
Flag
system.
up now, and you can see
What do you remember about the Great Depression?
Well, it's a good thing we lived on the farm, for we always had a garden, and we raised what we eat. We set out make ridges and set out several ridges of sweet potatoes, beans, corn. Mother would fix a big stone jar about 3 foot high full of apples, some, I don't know what you called it, but then she would fry, they'd just fry them. And we had a cellar, had all this canned stuff, kept it in the cellar. Come up a storm, well, we'd go to the cellar, and I've slept a lot of hours down there in the cellar. But I don't know, we raised, of course, we had chickens, and eggs. We just raised most of what we eat.
Have a milk cow?
Yeah, we had 2 cows, and we had them fixed where they wouldn't both be dry at the same time. I know when I was teaching school at Gilead, I'd go to the barn in the morning and take a lantern, and I had 3 cows then. I'd milk those 3 cows, strain that milk up, and I sold milk. And I'd go down there before day and milk, and get that milk can out on the road, and come to the house and eat breakfast, and then head out over to Gilead. In the wintertime, I'd get over in time to build a fire where it'd be warm when the students got there.
Did you have any relatives that served in World War II?
Yeah, my brother. He was overseas. He was over there on the landing and went in. And he is, of course, a doctor, and the major or something. He helped doctor him. I don't know what happened to him, but he helped doctor him. And then Wardney Lee Howell, his brother, was in the Army. I don't know where everybody around here was. I would have been if I hadn't had polio, for I'd got my classification. I was classified as 1A when I got out of high school.
Would you like to tell us anything about when you had polio?
Well, I got up one morning to put my clothes on. I started across the room to the chair where my clothes was. Before I got there, my legs went out from under me just like he'd cut them off, and I hit the floor sprawled. Well, you talk about hurting. I was hurting. I hollered for Dad and my brother, and they came and picked me up and put me on the bed. They called the doctor, and the doctor come out there and told them what was wrong, and we was quarantined for 3 weeks. We couldn't go nowhere. Nobody could come there. If we needed groceries, Mother would call out the store and tell them what we wanted and find out how much it was. She'd put the money out on the porch down there under a little pan. They'd bring the groceries down there and set them down and get the money and go for 3 weeks. And then Dad then could go to the store to get groceries, but he couldn't go in the building. He'd call ahead of time and tell them what they wanted, and then they would sack them up and put them out on the porch. He could get them and bring them home. But there for a long time I couldn't walk a step. I couldn't stand up. And Dr. Simmons, a chiropractor in Scottsville, he had an office at Scottsville of a morning and an office in Bowling Green of an evening. And he came by home every day about dinner for 30 days and gave me an adjustment. And one day he popped something in my back and all that hurting stopped. But I couldn't stand up. It went on there for a long time, and I decided one day, back then the bed had the feather bed and the straw thing, you know, the bed was higher. So I eased off of the bed, was laying on my stomach, and eased off the bed and laid on the bed with my elbows. And I worked my way around the bed. Probably took me 30 minutes to go around. I was wore out when I got over on the other side. And then I crawled back up in the bed. And I started doing that every day, and it got easier. And I finally got where I could walk in the house with crutches. I fell, no telling it, the times in the house. And then I got where I could get out in the yard with my crutches. I'd fall out there and I'd crawl to the fence and pitch my crutches ahead of me and pull myself up. Now right now you could lay $1 million right out there and say, now you get up out of that chair and don't you use your arms and you can have that $1 million. Well, I can't get up till I get pushed up and get my legs about straight. And then of course my left knee, I don't know, it's about wore out, I guess. I've got a brace on that thing. I've had it about 2 years. Cost $531. And it helps me, but it ain't like a knee. And then Bobby Thomas, he sent me these things a week or so ago. That helps me to walk, but I couldn't go to the mailbox if I didn't use that or that other one there. I couldn't go to the mailbox. I'd be afraid to fall. In the last 2 or 3 years, I mowed the yard, and Mima, I'd hold on to her and my walking stick, get down to the building and get on the mower, pull it out, and she'd bring out the gas and put gas in it. And I can mow, and that don't hurt me. But I don't know, I can't stir around too much. My old ticker won't right. And I know before, for about 2 or 3 years ago, I'd get up in the morning and my head would be spinning around and around. I couldn't get up and have to sit on the side of the bed about 10 minutes before it'd quit. And June's sister, one of them, told her about this Mennonite medicine. So I got some of that. And in about 2 weeks, that head spinning all quit. And I'm still taking it. And one of them is to clean the heart valve. I don't know what it does it or not. Something's doing something. But I don't know, long in there, it's a long time before I could do anything, but I finally got where I could walk to Beech Grove. I don't know how much longer I can walk, but I'm thankful that I can get around as good as I can. I can't do nothing. If I was to have a flat tire, I couldn't get out of the car and fix it. Most of the time I eat my meal on that table right here. And then the other time I'm doing puzzles.
You remember how old you were when that happened with your getting out of the bed that morning with polio?
I was 18. about 2 months after graduating high school. Played guard on the basketball team. And then I coached the 7th and 8th grades for several years when I was teaching at Allen County Elementary.
Things changed through the years. What's one thing that you wish was the same as when you were young?
Well, one thing, people would visit like they used to. Now, people don't visit. And I don't know half of the people who lives around here almost in hollering distance.
Of all the things that you learned from your parents, what's one of the best pieces of advice that they ever gave you?
Be good and friendly with everybody, I guess. I don't know what else.
Did Mother ever have a little saying that she would tell you, like live by the golden rule, or just anything that she would say?
Well, I don't know. I know one day, school kids, I noticed there was a smoking life everlasting. Well, one day I found me some, and I was out there back with the smokehouse. I rolled me up a cigarette, and I was out there puffing that cigarette. And Mother came by there. She had an armload of clothes and going to put on the clothesline. She looked down there and seen me. She said, "What are you a-doing?" She took her clothes out there and laid them on the line. Went out there at the peach tree and got her a limb about that long. And she came up there, boy, and she warmed my butt. Next time I wanted to smoke a little, I went way over in the pasture. I don't know, Mother, she is good as she could be. Dad was too. I know I was teaching school at Allen County Elementary. A little while after I bought that tractor, and we had rented a 30-acre field from James Bryant, and I knew Dad was going to be down there plowing in that field that day. About 1 o'clock, Mr. Raymond Barber, the principal at Allen County Elementary, he called up to my room and said, "Someone wants to speak to you on the phone." Well, I wondered who could that be. I went down there. I opened the door and stepped in. He said, he said, "You're going to like what you're fixing to hear." And I thought, what in the heck am I fixing to hear? So I went over and picked up the phone, and it was my dad. He was a shout over the telephone. He said, "The Lord just saved me a little while ago." He said, "I want you to keep praying for me, but you won't have to pray for the Lord to save me, because He did that just a little while ago." Well, I wondered. He said, "I thought I could get to the house quicker on foot, and I left the tractor down there in the field." And I just wondered the rest of the evening if that tractor was sitting down there running. So I got home and changed clothes and walked down there, and he turned it off. They told me out here at the store that he came up the road shouting. And from then on, Sunday and Sunday night, Dad was at church somewhere. Mr. Woods down here, Charlie Woods, his son pastored church summers, and he'd come by and get Dad and take him. But he'd come, him and Mother, after I bought that car, I'd carry him to Harmony every time in service. But that old tractor, the last time I used it, it's still hooked to the bush hog. I brought the battery down here at the building. I was going to charge it, and I charged it, and then I was getting where I couldn't hardly walk then. So I guess that battery's no good now. But I wouldn't be afraid to put a new battery in it and turn the key. I believe it'd start.
Your dad, I've heard stories, he could rub on people and warts disappear. Is that right?
I was thinking somebody said that he used to, people, if they had a wart or something, they'd
Oh,
come
yeah.
and he'd rub on it.
Yeah. He'd rub on that wart, and I don't know, in a few days it'd disappear.
I can remember he used to chew tobacco.
Oh, yeah. We'd be out of... I didn't like to sucker dark tobacco. He'd top that stuff, and then we'd have to sucker it 3 or 4 times. And he'd be about as far from here to the door there in front of me. He'd look back and say, "You missed one there." And I thought, well, I didn't care if I missed 2 or 3, but I had to break that sucker out. You had a, I don't know what you call it, a thing. You split tobacco and cut it off and put it over this stick that's sticking out of this thing. When you get so many on that stick, we'll lay it down, move it up, and then people started spiking tobacco. And Dad, he didn't think tobacco would cure up as good if it spiked. So we went 2 or 3 years in there, and then we got to spiking it, and that was a whole lot faster. But we always set it with a peg. That field down yonder below where, well, before you get to where June lived, that field, we'd swap work with people, and then we'd set, well, 3 or 4 hours, and we'd set that whole field in tobacco. And our dark tobacco, we'd lay the rows off one way, and lay them off crossways, and drop fertilizer in those where, and make a hill. That's how we would set our dark tobacco. The old mule that I plowed, he'd have to step on a plant of tobacco every time he turned him at the end. He'd step on one and turn it around. And Dad's mule, he wouldn't step on it, he'd step over it.
You knew we were coming. We were going to be talking. And I guess you put your thinking cap on and you've been thinking about things. Is there anything you want to tell us that we haven't asked?
Of course, the first year we lived with Dad and Mother. And Ronnie Gent's daddy was a carpenter. While we was living down there, we built these first 4 rooms. When he'd get out here about sunup of the morning and worked till sundown of the evening, about $6 a day. Well, we got the house done and got our furniture. Then when we come over first night we spent up here, we had the furniture, everything. Just Timmy then come along, and we just had 2 beds. So we decided we needed to add some more onto the house. So we got Marvin Woods. He had a store up there. He sold lumber and had carpenters that worked for him. I went up there to talk to them, ask them about adding on that large room in there, and restroom or bathroom, and that back bedroom, and this building on room on the back. Yeah, he said, well, we can do it. So they started coming out here and working. After they got the foundation fixed, well, they'd bring out some lumber and maybe use half of that load and take it back and bring some more. And that went on. They got the rooms all done. Well, I waited 3 months and had got no bill or nothing. So I told Mima, I said, I need to go up there and find out why we ain't got a bill for that work. And I went up there and I asked him, and I said, I haven't got a bill, and I want to know how much we owe you. Well, he had some guy there that kept the books. He had him to look and see how much the bill was. And how much do you figure that room and the bathroom and the back bedroom and this, all of that, what do you figure it cost?
I have no idea.
$3,000.
$3,000.
And it so happened I had enough money in the bank, and wrote him a check. I know he had one carpenter up there that's putting a roofing out over there, and in the valley And one of them seen one carpenter down there, he was nailing in the valley. Oh, he said, you can't do that, it'll leak. He said, tear all them off. So he tore them all off, pitched them out on the ground. He said, you get down, get off from up here. You can't, you don't know how to roof. I didn't think we could beat that price.
Okay, when you first built the house, what did you do for water?
There was a well over here at the schoolhouse. We packed water from over there, over here. Didn't have no bathroom. We'd have to do a washing with a wash pan and a rag for baths. So I decided, down at my dad's, we had a well dug down there. Somebody, you know, with one of these sticks that you find water, they had found the place, and Dad drove a stop down where it was, and we got a guy in Scottsville to come out there and dig a water well. And he dug it 80 feet deep, and it's dry. He's getting $2 a foot. Well, Dad asked him, he said, can you find where there is water here in this yard? And he went down there and cut him one of these sticks. And, oh, it's right down here. He said, I'll charge you $4 a foot if we hit water, or it won't charge you anything if we don't hit water. So Dad told him, dig it. He dug another well there, 80 feet, no water. So I decided we needed to dig us a cistern. So I got Rufus Mansfield to help me. And we dug a cistern out here. We didn't dig it round. We dug it 9 feet one way and 8 feet the other way. We'd work on that, throw the dirt out, and late of evening we'd throw all that dirt on over further, and next day we dug that thing 11 feet deep. 11 feet deep, 9 feet by 8 feet. Well, when we got that done, we built the farm, and it come out from Scottsville and poured the sides and the bottom. That all got set up. Then we built the farm and poured the top. And we had left out a place in the top for if you need to get in the cistern. Well, we got that and called them, and they come out and poured the top. Well, there was a guy in Scottsville that hauled water. He'd haul 2,000 gallons at a load for $20. Well, when we got everything, got the frame all out for the top, and got a little water in there, and washed the walls and everything to get the concrete taste out. Called him, and he brought us 2,000 gallons and put in there. Went back, got another 2,000 gallons, put that in there. He went to get another load, and while he was going to get that third load, I went out to the store, and some of them out there said, how much of that second load did he have to take back? I said, he didn't take any of it back. He went back to get 2 more thousand. So it holds 6,000 gallons. So we run the water from there into the kitchen. I had him to haul the water for, I don't know, how many years. And then my grandpa Thomas, they had a cistern. And he said if you run the water in during a month with an R in it, why, it will stay good water. So I bought a, I don't know what you call it, the water come through it, it'd purify it.
A filter.
Filter. So then we used that filter for several years. And then we found out that Warren County would run the water up in Allen County if we could get so many names. They told us, I believe, it's about 40 names, I think. So we got out here in February and rounded up, got everybody that would take the water, got their name. And then we knew that when they was going to meet again, we went back down there and they said you'll have to get 10 more. So we visited these that we done been to. Some of them took 2. They was going to have a meter at the barn. So, but our water, well, it was just $10.50, I think. And now, for the last year or so, it's $11.14, I think.
And that's for the 2,000
2,000, yeah.
minimum.
That's the best bargain we've got.
Okay. What's your favorite TV shows?
I watch Pat Sajak, Vanna White. I watch that every time it's on from here in the house. Ball games. I don't like football like I used to, but basketball games, I watch all of them that I can.
And your favorite team?
Well,
College team?
they got beat today. I tell you what, they're going to get beat several days if they don't play different. That team that played them back first of the week played the zone defense against them, and they couldn't get in there. Couldn't get no easy baskets. And today, I don't know, they just couldn't. But they just ain't got the players this time that they had last year.
I know, that's...
Yeah, but you know it always...
Every year, that's the way it's going to be. I get a crop of freshmen in there. And
Well, see, everybody is against Kentucky. I mean, if they can beat Kentucky, they've had a good season.
Mm-hmm.
And Kentucky's... And I heard he's got some better players signed up for another year, but if these is not drafted,
I know.
why, what's he going to do? He can't have but so many.
Go ahead.
Whatever.
We used to have a garden over yonder, back of the barn. But I don't know. But we had to put an electric fence around our garden over there. Put one strand about that close to the ground, and then another and about like that, and then one up around the top. Keep the deer out. But the squirrels and groundhogs, it could still get in there. I went over there one day. I saw a groundhog. He just humped up like he's scared to death. I guess he got into that fence. Well, Mildred come out and I hollered for her. I said, bring your gun over here. Well, I don't know whether she couldn't understand me or what, but she come over there. I said, you see that groundhog there? She said, yeah. I said, you watch it. I'll go get my gun. So by the time I could come to the house, get my gun, and get back over there, she said it went up in the corn. Well, we walked up through there, didn't see it. Walked back, didn't see it. Well, we moved over a little and went up again, and there he was up here next to this end of the garden, just sitting there shaking. So I shot him. Then it got where, well, that's the last garden we had over there. Started setting their tomatoes out around the back deck. Meemaw's been sitting out 2 or 3 the last 2 or 3 years. And all I can do on the outside is her to lead me down to the lawnmower. I can get on it and I can mow the yard. Or lead me to the car. She's got now afraid me to drive her to town. I don't know what she's thinks that I would have a heart attack or what. But I can do poison books. I'm going to show you when I got started for Caleb. I've been giving him one ever. He fixed me one last year. I ain't got that done.
Hold that up and show us how you circle it. You don't just,
Huh?
I said, show it, hold that up in front of the camera. You don't just do it by hand, you do a ruler and make it neat.
Yeah, I'll look at my word down here. Lay it down there. Draw a line. Move it up above it. Draw a line.
Okay, turn it around, turn the book around at the little camera. I've already done one. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know, I found his initial, well, I found right there, I found DV, red. I found it several places in here, and when I get through, I'm going through and see if I can find his initials. And what I've been doing, I've been doing 10 of them a day. And I like 20, 50, let me see. There's 79, and I'm be going starting on 50 next. But I've got you and Mark, Jason and Kim, Kelly, Spring, Caleb, Seth, and Kevin. You all are fixed up for 3 straight years. And then I'm going to quit.
Sure, I've heard that before.
Well, I'm 88 years old. I may not be around for breakfast in the morning. And I like Eric and Becca having Timmy's. There's 5 of them, him and PK and KLM. Eric and Becca. I like Eric and Becca one, and having them all fixed up for 3 Christmases. But I don't know, I just like to work on them. It's hard when you take one where it's this line, it's hard to. Some of these I don't believe there's a half a dozen. One like that, and I don't believe there's half a dozen letters for what's used.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your afternoon with us.
Well,